Aloha. This is me sitting down at 1:54 a.m. and it feels appropriate because I sat down in my robe, in this postpartum robe that Chord had a matching pajamas and a little dress and bloomers with. It's called Hibiscus Kiss. And uh, it brings me back to those fresh newborn postpartum days with her, just being suspended in that absolutely sleepless and yet sacred time. And I wanted to sit down and record this for you, Chord Nalu, for me as your mom, the birth story, your birth story. I think I'm probably going to do it in several flavors, and just let it spill out, let it flow and be unedited and unscripted and uh, a story of love and unconditional love and healing and transcendence and gratitude for you, that it was always you. So, your birth story. Uh, it was Wednesday, June 28th, 2023, and you came to us at 7:03 p.m. And I sing that to you every night in the lullaby that I was inspired to write for you. And you're actually in the room just across from me, and I'm going to go cuddle you right after this. That day I was 39 weeks and 3 days, 39 plus 3 weeks up high or pregnant with you. And we were on Oahu. You were created on Maui, and much of your growth was on Maui, where we live. Um, you did go on a trip to Bali and Lombok in Indonesia. You made some stops in Singapore and Tokyo. You also went to uh, San Diego and Phoenix and Orlando, Winter Park, Florida, where mommy's from, um, Oahu, a few times. One, once for some scans. You also went to Kauai on like a family baby moon. These are the places that you traveled during. No, you went to Big Island after you were born. Anyway, we had chosen to go to Oahu because your big sister Camden and your big brother Cruz were born there, and that's the hospital that mommy worked at, Kapi'olani Medical Center for Women and Children, and it's where I became the physician that I am and the healer that I am, and had the privilege of taking care of so many um, babies and keiki and families, Ohanas. And so I've walked in those very halls and been in those very rooms where all of the labor rooms where I had Camden and Cruz and then you, and then the postpartum rooms as well. And so it always brings back a lot of emotions being full circle in there, the place where I worked and where I gave of myself in such a magnificent and expansive way. And then as a human, as a mom, as a divinely chosen a vessel to bring you forth into this world, to be able to do that there as well. And so we were on Oahu staying with our close Ohana, um, chosen Ohana that we love so much, Art and Mish, and they have been so wonderful opening up their hale and home and hearts. And we had been staying over there. Camden had finished her hula camp that we did at our church here, Hope Chapel on Maui. And then it was Father's Day, and she had danced in the hula mele and given Daddy this lei that she made. And we had hopped on a plane later that day to head over. Um, and yeah, I'm already fast forwarding to this summer when you were my I volunteered for Sports Med and you were my co-worker all summer. But we had hopped on the plane over there and began the process of waiting for you. I really had hoped to kind of go into labor on my own with you. I'm somebody whose body prepares, like with both of my first two deliveries, my body dilates well ahead of time. With Camden, I had dilated like 5 or 6 centimeters, not being in active labor and cruise 4 to 5. And with you, I had stopped doing cervical checks because I knew, and trusted my body that I dilate, I get ready, I prepare for you. Um, but I think I had had one check around 37 weeks. Um, and I was like 3 centimeters at that time, or 4 centimeters even. Um, and so I had been getting, I was 40 years old during your pregnancy, which feels, young and vibrant to me. I was very active. You were very active, doing internal gymnastics throughout. And we had done plenty of Peloton workouts and rides and yoga, all the yogas galore. We did a 45-minute yoga the day before you arrived, at the beach in Kailua. And we were getting regular checks on you, NSTs, non-stress tests, just to listen to your heartbeat and feel you move, which I felt you move all the time. And we had a regularly scheduled appointment that morning, at the Pan Am building in downtown Honolulu, which interestingly enough is a place where your Gigi, my mom, maternal grandma, had previously trained for her Pan Am flight attendant training back in the 70s. So we're there at the building at, I think, 8 in the morning. We had an early appointment and we saw, Dr. Joy, who's a maternal fetal medicine, physician who is a friend and who had been seeing you and me throughout this pregnancy. And the non-stress tests, all the ones that we had had leading up to that, we were having them twice weekly, were really good. And this morning's was also good. You were moving well. I felt you moving, but they felt that, the movements didn't happen in the time period allotted. There's kind of like a window that they like to see. So they converted the non-stress test into a biophysical profile, BPP, which is like a little bit more in-depth test, looking at your fluid and your lung movements and some other parameters of your, how you were doing in there. And on the ultrasound, the fluid around, in the placenta within me, where you were floating in your spa appointment, just preparing, looked murky instead of looking black and clear. It looked kind of hazy, kind of fuzzy, kind of murky. And so, mommy wasn't initially following the line of questioning of Auntie Dr. Joy. She was saying stuff like, "Oh, what is your plans for today?" And I was telling her, detailing all about how we were going to go see Emmy, who is our amazing, just beloved, chosen Ohana member who was also a nanny for us, during Camden's first year of life. And we were going to go meet up with her for shave ice. And Camden was stoked to show her her hula mele. And we had this whole morning planned out in Waikiki after the appointment with you. And that was the train of thought that mommy was on. And Auntie Dr. Joy was kind of trying to guide me to say, how about you're gonna, go check into labor and delivery. It's not emergently. I'm not gonna call an ambulance or anything like that, but I've just gotten off the phone with L&D and your OB team and, feel like it's urgent and important for you to check in and, proceed with an induction of labor today. And, we had been up a lot the night before, mommy doing a lot of shishi, sleeping in not in our own beds, and we're all in one room. And so, of course, I knew like every day was a potential getting closer to meeting you, but I had still hoped to go into labor. And the reason that they were recommending induction for you to come that day was because the fluid was a little bit murky and they felt concerned that it could be meconium. And meconium is fecal matter. It's like, you know, poop from babies, right? If you guys are practicing doing all the things when you're in there doing all your internal gymnastics, you're practicing your swallowing and you're practicing moving and all of it. And so, that can be meconium can be a sign of distress. Part of labor is you guys getting squeezed, out the vaginal canal, and it is traumatic and it is stressful and it's meant to be that way so that your intrauterine, it's fascinating, really. You'll learn more about this, but like this is the kind of stuff I geek out over, Anik the Geek. Your intrauterine circulation and the way that your heart and the blood flows through your heart and lungs is completely different from how it happens in extrauterine life, and that in the stress, that your body is put under during labor is divinely ordained, orchestrated symphony so that you get the memo to take those first gulps of air and cries, and the pressure changes when you come out, and then, your lungs expel any amniotic fluid and anything like that, and your heart circulation changes, and it's just this magnificent miracle, really. Um, but hearing the words that meconium could be meconium stained amniotic fluid, and that there was concern for that, was really heavy for me. I, have been blessed to be part of many deliveries, and most of the time I'm called to deliveries that could potentially need extra help for the baby or the mom, or the baby from the pediatrician standpoint. And so, I've been in deliveries where there was concern for meconium stained fluid, and the babies come out and they do amazing, and they're vigorous, and they're crying, and they're beautiful and healthy and plump, and go right to mommy. And other ones where the baby needs a little suction, a little more stimulation. And then others where there's been some aspiration, where the meconium or the fecal matter from the baby goes into the lungs, and then it's becomes more serious, and they need escalated care in the NICU, or neonatal intensive care unit. And this is part of the reason why we were at Kopiolani, because we have a fabulous NICU with amazing neonatologists, physicians that are trained to care for babies in this age group, and with all the pathology, all the different things that it can occur with birth, and the nurses in there, and the respiratory therapists, and everybody, the dietitians, everyone is phenomenal. And so I have such peace of mind having all of you guys at Kopiolani, knowing these staff, having worked with them, having been in the trenches with them, having seen their work ethic, seen their integrity, how much they care about babies, how much they give of their own energy. And so this was part of the impetus for me every time to be there, to come from Maui, hop on a plane, 39 weeks pregnant, and do that. So that rocked my world, hearing that news, that today was going to be the day that we were going to meet you. And like your sister and brother before you, we didn't find out if you were a girl or a boy, just surrendering to whoever God sent for us to parent, who whatever gift we were given. That exquisite honor I could feel with every time I heard your heartbeat, and every movement that I felt within you. And even before I could even feel you move, when I felt your presence and knew I was pregnant, and had prayed for you and had held space for you, that um, whoever you were, you were well on your way to being whoever that was. And to be able to surrender to a knowing that everything was in balance, everything was exactly as it should be, everything was working out for my highest good and your highest good. And to have that beautiful surrender um, in waiting to meet you, and getting to meet you, and getting to grow you and to know you in that way first, was everything for me. And I had really desired to be able to feel your timing and when you wanted to come into the world. So hearing that we were going to meet you that day, and it was going to be your birthday, was a little jarring, and I definitely felt emotional about it. Your brother and sister Camden and Cruz were there. I remember they were sitting in the room. We had like allowed them to be on the iPad, which totally other topic, but we're now doing a digital fast right now. I don't judge myself on that, but I really want you guys to all have like the most beautiful imaginations, and be free of ways that the different digital devices can kind of hijack your nervous systems. And yeah, it's a balance that we all walk with parents, but that's for another day. But I remember walking out of the office, getting in the car, and we drove over the Poly back from Honolulu to Kailua, and the silent tears were falling, and I was holding hands with Daddy, and I glanced into the rearview mirror and into the back seat, and Camden and Cruz, your big brother and sister, were holding hands as well. They sensed that there was an immense gravity to the moment. They sensed that there was a pivot, a change in our family constellation that was happening. They knew that mommy was pregnant. They knew that they were getting a baby sister or brother. By the way, Camden had been praying fervently, very much for a baby sister. So you're very much her dream come true. And Cruzy was ready to love whoever, since he's such a such a loving, contagiously amazing little guy. So when you were born, they're 3 years old. Cruz is 3 and Camden was 6. Um, and so we drove back over the Poly and we got our things. Mommy and Daddy got our things together. And I had really worried about Camden and Cruz and like how that would look for them when we were in the hospital meeting you. Mommy hadn't ever been away from Cruz and had only been away from Camden once for Cruz's birth. So I really thought about that so much. Like, how would, you know, how would it go for them and how could we validate them and include them as much as possible? And luckily, Auntie Mission Uncle Art stepped up in the most magnificent way to play with them and, love on them and for them to have like a blast while waiting for you. So Daddy and I, after a prayer, we said a family prayer. Daddy and I hopped in the car and drove back over the Pali to Kapilani and listened to meditation along the way. Did some prayers and some surrendering. Some more tears were falling. I started being worried about it all. Like envisioning the delivery room. Would we need neonatology in there? Would you need to go to the NICU? Would it be? Would I be able to hold you? Would I be able to, you know, feel you like on my body from the moment you came out, just like I wanted? Would I be able to step up like I wanted to for you and have an unmedicated vaginal birth? And would I be able to believe in my body and in you and in our harmony? And would I be able to do it? And some of those anxieties started to come flooding through my body in some of the, exhaustion that I was feeling as well. And I had really, with Camden and Cruz, we did postpartum baby newborn pictures that are so wonderful and I cherish them. And with you, I decided I wanted to do photos like in the moment of us in labor, of us in the raw, like in these real moments. And so I had contacted a photographer on the North Shore, Sophia of Oahu, but we hadn't had time to meet yet. Um, and I let her know that it was happening today. And I didn't know if it aligned with her schedule, and I just kind of put it out there to the universe if she wanted to come. And she did end up coming, spoiler alert. And so I remember parking in the physician's parking. You better believe we parked in the physician parking in the parking garage and walking in the same way I had walked in 1,000 times to the hospital to work. It still gets me like I used to badge into these doors and hallways and checking into labor and delivery, writing to the illustrator of Mommy's book that came out when you were 9, 10 months old, Oceans of Aloha, and writing to her and then also just deciding to put my phone away and fully focus, fully be present. And this time we got checked into a room for labor that overlooked not each one in the highway, but the opposite side over towards Shriners and more on the west side. And it had 3 coconut palm trees that were swaying in the late afternoon light in the swaying in the breeze, like doing a hula in the trade winds. And those were my focal points, the 3 of you, that give me so much purpose and peace and fulfillment in my life. And I remember turning down the lights, and I remember praying with Daddy over the hospital bed together. And I remember centering myself and meeting the male nurse, Travis, who was so wonderful. And he actually stayed a few minutes over his shift because you were born at 7:03 and nurses typically have these 12-hour shifts. And so the day shift is POW, they're done at 7 p.m. and then the night shift comes on. And he was so stoked to see who you were and who was coming that he didn't leave. And so we had, this great harmony of people in there. And I remember getting these divine chocolate chip cookies, which we absolutely will get the name of, from Auntie Mel, who brought these. She won some raffle, and so there were these chocolate chip cookies from literally manna from heaven that came from the North Shore. Auntie Lala's cookies or something. And with Camden and Cruz, I remember having some anxiety and fear about, oh, okay, like in case I need a C-section, just thinking really medically. Mommy's a doctor, so I have that voice in my head as well. Thinking really medically about it, like, oh, I need to not have anything to eat in case it's a C-section. With you, I was like, I got this. I'm gonna have this cookie, and I ate that chocolate chip cookie, honey. It was all kinds of awesome. And that cookie powered us through. It was a big cookie. There might have been more than one, but I'm just gonna go with one. Um, and then Auntie Dr. Erin Gertz came in and she wound up being our OB, your OB, my OB for your delivery. And I hadn't had her before, but she's just a truly magnificent soul. And she had come back recently from um, a medical missions trip in Mongolia and helping mommies and women there. And that was really amazing. And we also had a really awesome physician, resident physician, fifth year, who's now blossoming in her career in the most amazing way. And her name is Dr. Olivia Manayan. And so you had just this power Wahine team. That should have been a little hint for me. But truly, I was just so surrendered to who you might be. And I'm stoked to tell you all about it and a little bit more. But just know I came into that room with all of it, believing in you, believing in me, knowing that my emotions are my teachers. And so to feel that fear of anxiety, fear and mixture of anxiety that we're swirling around, like, could I do this? Could I trust my body? How would it look? How would our story unfold? Was everything going to be okay? Was the fluid, amniotic fluid around you, did it have meconium or did it not? Were you stressed? Because I felt that you were moving fine. I felt that you were at peace. I felt that you were thriving within. We hooked up the monitors, us to the monitors, and your heart rate sounded beautiful. Just such a melodic symphony. Beautiful to hear. And that was really reassuring. And so I'm going to keep telling you more about the story as it unfolds. And what an honor it is to every day since I've known it was you, every day since before I knew it was you, before you even came to be, I prayed for you. I held space for you when your brother was going through all his newborn milestones. I knew in my soul, I knew in my inner knowing of every fiber of my being that it wasn't the last time that I would experience those milestones. And it wasn't because it was you. And I want to tell you more about the fabric of like your pregnancy, my high season with you, and more about the birth story. That's where mommy's gonna end tonight at 2:16 in the morning. We still have lots of late night parties. You're probably gonna pipe up here and again in a couple minutes. You're 14 months now, and you are a light in our family. You laugh. You're so determined. You're a fierce female. You are not afraid to take up space, just like you were not afraid to take up space in my body. And there's so much about your birth story that is so you. Um, and I love you so much. And this is such an honor to get to sit down and tell your birth story to you so you can understand the significance of how you came to be, how you came into this world, how you were chosen, how you are a chosen daughter of the King, and how you are worthy of every good and perfect thing in this life, and how this life is messy, magical, how you are messy, magical, how nothing's perfect, but through the imperfect, through that messy middle, that's where the real magic happens. And when we lean into all of those things, and mommy did, I'm proud to say I did that. I did that. I walked in with you into that hospital, not knowing how everything would unfold and having that apprehension, having that fear, having that anxiety, having that glorious anticipation. And I did. I believed in us. I looked at those palm trees. I'm going to tell you more, but on every single contraction, I breathed in the golden light. I chose to step into the divine. I chose to smile and greet every intensifying contraction that was happening in my body that was bringing us closer together, that was bringing you down to me. And for you to come into this world and just wrapped in so much aloha, wrapped in um, so much beautiful anticipation and just sacred surrender. It really was everything. So I'll tell you more tomorrow, my little opihi. I love you.